Welcome to episode 8 of the Purpose Pursuit podcast with Tim Batts, where we inspire you to find your purpose, focus on it, and build a life you're proud of, mentally, spiritually, financially, and physically. Today's guest is a powerhouse in education, motivation, and leadership. Dr. Shawn is a professor, motivational speaker, author, and consultant who has dedicated his life to transforming students into professionals and breaking barriers for first-generation, low-income, and underrepresented students. This episode isn't just about education. It's about resilience, finding your calling, and creating generational impact. If you've ever questioned your purpose or wondered how to break through life's limitations, Dr. Boyd's journey will leave you inspired and ready to act. Let's get into it. All right, Shawn. You've accomplished so much, but let's start with the roots. What was your upbringing like, and how did it shape you to become the man you are today?
Yeah, man. So a really great question. So born and raised Memphis, Tennessee, all the way. Pretty much have been in Memphis my entire life. So I guess going back down memory lane, as we should say. Born in South Memphis, 38114 area code. I always tell people I kind of live behind that Kellogg's. That was in the Castelia, La Paloma area. So born and raised, man, by a single parent mom. My mom, super close, probably my best friend, actually. We talk every day. But she was one that just wanted the best for me, man. So looking back, just kind of made sure to be that number one cheerleader in everything I did, man. Super close with my dad, but of course they kind of separated early. Only child. So yes, man, born and raised in Memphis. Everything I do bleeds Memphis. And I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more later, but yeah, kind of that's where I started, just kind of in the city of Memphis and just all the great things that hopefully we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah. So coming from South Memphis, I would have never guessed it.
Okay.
My dad came from South Memphis.
Okay.
And like he's pretty instrumental in the community too as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just to hear that you're from South Memphis, because not a lot of people make it out of the hood.
Yeah, so true.
Right?
So true.
But
yes.
You're a prime example of making it out of the hood. And I may be getting ahead of myself, but it's just kind of rolling in my mind right now. How can someone that's in the hood, South Memphis, Orange Mound, or what have you, get to a point to where they could make it out? Well, like what would their process look like?
Man, number one, I just feel like the grace of God, number one. And, you know, I kind of tell this story all the time, man. I remember my mom taking me. I went to Sharp Elementary.
Yeah.
That was my elementary.
I went to Sharp
too, bro.
Hold on, man.
I know we went to the same high school, man. I ain't know about elementary. I did Colonial Middle School.
I went to Colonial.
Man.
Yeah, I was, but you probably were gone before I got there.
Okay.
I came first year, I was there in the 8th grade.
So
you was gone.
Got you. Man, Memphis is small, man.
I went to Sharp and then straight to Colonial.
Yeah.
Okay, I went to Sherwood first one year, then I went to Colonial.
Got you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, on the way, you know, daily to Sharp Elementary, my mom drove like this Nissan Pulsar. Most folks don't even know what their car is, but had the little flip lights, man. And I remember riding that daily. And I would pass, man. We would pass the corner stores in the hood, man. South Memphis, especially. There was a corner store literally every corner, man, literally. And so I remember her, you know, saying, "Hey, I want you to go to college. I really want you to make something out of yourself." And looking back, man, I really think she said that because she knew some of the dangers that were in South Memphis, man. You know, I would see the folks, especially more young men, standing around the corner store daily at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, looking back, it was probably some things they shouldn't have been doing, selling drugs, you know, drinking early, different things like that, man. And so I think she always wanted to create experiences that allow me to see past South Memphis, if that makes sense. So, you know, even though I lived in South Memphis, most of the things I did were in the city as a whole, man. Just different organizations I was involved in. Mentorship was important to me, man. She had some great folks that mentored me throughout my young life. And I just think it allowed me to see something different than my current circumstance at the time.
Got it.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, who was your 6th grade teacher?
Man, 6th grade teacher, Mr. Williams, I want to say.
I remember
man,
Mr. Williams.
I got to give Mr. Williams, man.
I remember. He was slim, wasn't he?
Slim, yeah. He's actually
Slim and tall.
passed since then, man, but was really, really great teacher.
Yeah, my teacher was Miss Robinson.
Yeah, she was
She was a
the GOAT.
Delta. She was a
Yeah, I
Delta.
remember Miss
All right.
Robinson.
I ain't know what a Delta was.
I think
But
everybody wanted to be in her class
yeah,
too,
no, she
man.
was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah.
was real
To say
cool.
it on you.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I never would have thought you went to Sharp.
Man, small world.
I
Small
live
world.
right down the street from Sharp. I
Okay,
used to walk
okay.
to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made a joke, man. My son is 10th grade at East High School in Memphis. And he went to the library, which is right up the street from East. I was like, man, I remember at Sharp, it used to be the Cherokee Library. And I would go there every day after school. I probably shouldn't have been. I was like, 8 years old, man? But, back then, the crime and all that wasn't a big issue. So I would go down there daily, man, do homework and just hang out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did the same thing. And Cherokee was actually the opposite way.
Okay,
from my house.
okay. Gotcha.
So to go from Sharp, go to, I don't know, why did I go? I know I went there to do some work, but
yeah.
I could have went home and did the work, but
Gotcha,
I guess it was a good thing, and the library was there. But that's
yeah.
crazy, man.
True.
That's good to know now.
Yeah.
Was there a specific moment or experience in your youth that planted the seeds for your passion for education and leadership?
A specific moment, I guess I would say, moving from South Memphis, man. So I actually, as I told you, kind of grew up, elementary school in the South Memphis area. But then I actually moved to, I guess, consider East Memphis, around the corner, Perkins, Niono area, around the corner from Sheffield. And so I think when I got to that neighborhood back when I was in middle school, it was just a totally different environment. So, when you're small, man, you make your childhood friends, your neighbors are like your aunts, your uncles, a second grandmother. I moved to something totally different, right? And so I think, again, the movement itself kind of allowed me to see transitions in life, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about later. But I saw that at an early stage, so where I had to meet new people. I had different neighbors from, other different races, man. And so I would say probably that was one of the defining moments that kind of, showed me like, hey, you can adapt to change, right? You can do well in change. And change is going to be something that's going to come in life. Even I'm 44 now, man, and it's something I have to deal with now. So I feel like me learning it earlier really helped me to really navigate this thing that we call life.
And with meeting those individuals, different people, and building those relationships, do you think that kind of played a part into your networking skills as you got older?
Yeah, man. So I laugh. I tell people all the time, I'm really. I started off as an introvert. A lot of people be like, "What?" And I'm like, I'm really still an introvert, right? But I love the relationship of people. Like I love meeting folks. I'm the guy who works at Starbucks all the time for that reason. So I sit at one of those big tables with other people. I want to get to know not only your name, but just your story, man. Like, how did you get to be the teacher that you are? Or how did you go into construction? Like, what was your story? Those things kind of fuel me. And I really feel like it helped to lead me into the field of education because every student, that you encounter, they got a story, right? It's more than just, there go Brandon or there go Lil Mary or whatever the case may be. Like, how did you get here and how can I help you, complete that story? So, yeah, I think that was a big factor of me starting that transition period earlier. Yeah.
You've been recognized with awards like Urban Elite 40 Under 40 and the Martin Luther King Dreams of Tomorrow. How do those milestones reflect your purpose?
Man. Just even hearing you say that, number one, I want to say I'm grateful for every recognition I get, right? Because, my mom used to always say people don't have to give you anything. So I want to lead with that. I'm super grateful. However, awards don't define me, right? And that's a lesson I think I did have to learn earlier. Being transparent, I went through a stage where, I felt like those things did define me, right? And so I think the older I got, or have gotten, I just try to focus on the work, right? I feel like we all have an assignment from God. Every single person is here, right? And when you find what that assignment is and you get in that lane, you just kind of take off, man. And so, yeah, of course, when you're doing the work, being in the natural world, people are going to recognize you for their work. But if nobody did, even moving forward, I'm okay with that, right? And so I think the older I get, and that's my advice to young people, focus on the work, right? And then let the rest take care of itself. So again, super honored. Like every award that I've got, man, I don't take it for granted. However, I know that, if I never got anything else, man, long as I'm making God happy, man, my family happy, and I mentioned my mom earlier, um, I'm doing a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the turning point in your life when you realized your calling to help students and professionals succeed?
Man, there's probably many different stories, but I guess I mentioned earlier, I'm a first gen college student, and of course, for your audience, man, first in my family, man, especially on my mom's side. So my dad actually did go to college, but growing up in a single parent home, I kind of only witnessed my mom in that aspect of like what college looks like. So as I mentioned earlier, every day my mom would say, "I want you to go to college," and I think she was thinking like, "Hey, I didn't get to go, I didn't get to finish, right? So I want to have more for you than I was able to do, right?" And so I think, I learned about the importance of education early in life when I was at Sharp, and just all the tools that it can unlock. So, we could talk about, of course, the book is about the college, but there's so many different ways that you can really get a post-secondary credential. But I would say, I guess to answer your question, a defining moment, man, just working in the field of higher education, which I have now since 22 years, a long time. And so I remember many, especially black men, young black boys coming to college. Number one, not really prepared to be in college. So there was always an issue. But I was that guy who, like, again, I want to be a relationship. So I want to help you stay here if that's what you want to do. However, there was many different challenges that came with it. So I think, me being in this field and what defined it was me wanting to help students. If they want to get a college degree, you can do it, right? And so I feel like one of my assignments is to get behind those students and say, hey, you may didn't come to college all the way prepared. That's not your fault. But it's me being, or giving an assignment from God, I can help you to get there. And so I think, though, I would say that's probably one of the most defining moments of like why I got into the field of education.
Did a little bit of you going to college play into
Yeah.
you helping them? And where I'm going with this is did you have it? Did you have it figured out? Did you have all the tools? Did you have all the resources?
And
And so did that kind of align you with your purpose as you became to give back?
yeah.
So
Man, that's a great question. And look, I'm going back to Overton, Miss Hardaway, and I'm sure you
yeah,
remember Miss Hardaway.
I was in her class.
Yeah, man. So, man, just the greatness of God. So I remember taking the ACT, man, a test that you take to, of course, to get into college. My junior year, right? Junior year, man, did terrible. Like I tell students all the time, I made like a 15 out the gate, like super low. But back then, many teachers would tell you you need at least a 18 to get into college for scholarship, maybe 21. And so I remember taking that test, man, feeling super bad about it, having to tell my mom, because again, her goal was for me to go to college. So I'm like, I'm gonna tell my mom I ain't do good on the ACT. Fast forward, man, my senior year, being in Miss Hardaway class, honors algebra 2, man, God rest her soul. Of course, she passed away a few years ago. But Miss Hardaway was more than just a teacher. She was like a life coach, right? That really just required excellence in her class, man. If you didn't put your name in the right place on the piece of paper that you turned into her, you got points subtracted. Minus 15, she would say, right? Minus 30, depending on the day. And so she was one, man. Many people that really don't know this, but she was one that was like, hey, I can help tutor you, for a few weeks and open it up to other students. And so we would get in Miss Hardaway class, man, at 6 a.m. every morning. She didn't ask to get paid. Man, she would bring snacks, she would bring juice, and my score ended up going up a little bit. And so I look back to say, man, she was one of the factors that helped me to really realize college was possible. And I think, man, looking back, I was like, man, how many Shawns are out there that didn't think college was possible? But if they didn't have a Miss Hardaway to really speak life into them, or someone like my mom, man, they probably went a whole other way. And so I think that was one of the reasons, man, that I wanted to go into the field of higher education to find those people that didn't believe that they can do it, they say, hey, you can do it. Whatever I need to do, if that's coming in to help tutor you, if that's to help you to fill out the financial aid application, if that's to take you on a college tour, man, you can do it. You can do it. And so that's probably one of the biggest factors, man, the power of teachers. Very, very important.
So you're a professor. You were a professor, right?
Yeah, I've done it.
So, but what subject did you teach?
In college,
Yeah.
yeah. So man, so pretty much, man, I've done a lot in higher. I laugh when you ask that question because I've done a lot of different things in higher ed. But I've taught, man, freshman seminar courses, like when freshmen come in and get kind of acclimated to college. I've taught, oral communications, and the list just goes on and on, man. So yeah, I've been able to witness some of the same students like me in those particular courses.
How do you balance being a professor, speaker, consultant, author, husband, and father while staying true to your purpose?
Man, you see, I laugh with that, right? If I feel like if I had the answer to that, I would not be working anymore. I'd be rich, right? I think, man, I've learned. I just think, just being in life, man, there's really no such word of like balance. I think it kind of goes up and down, man. So where you are in life. So I think I use the word in rhythm with life, like, right? So when I'm at a good pace, like I feel good about waking up, man. I feel good about all the things that I have going on. Number one, I think, to anybody that might be listening to the podcast, man, number one, find your purpose and your passion. The purpose of the podcast, man, the name of it. I feel like if you love what you do, it don't feel like work, man. You just getting up. Many days, most days I get up 95% of the time. I'm excited to get to what I get to do. I tell people I just recorded, man. I was on my Instagram yesterday. I had just left I call it a solo lunch. I love those, just going by myself, man, so I can really just get some thought partnership with Shawn. And so, man, I got in my car and I was like, man, I get to do this. Like I get the chance to travel around the world, man, different colleges, help students, help faculty and staff, man, to really do this thing that we call college. So I think if you love what you do, it don't feel like work, right? So it's not like you just going to 8 to 5, you tired. I watched people my whole life do that. And I was like, I never want to be that person where I just feel like I had to go to work to get a check, right? Life is too short. So if I'm at work, like, let it be something that I at least like to do, right? So, number one, find your purpose, passion. Number two, know that you have to determine what's important, priority. So, number one is always God, man. I try to start my day with a podcast, spiritual, man. I journal, right? I used to listen to a sermon, shout out Bishop Walker, Nashville, Keon Henderson, and some of the podcasts I listen to, and it kind of shapes my day. And so I think you have moments where when you determine what's important, my family is important. I think I told you earlier with the podcast today, like, hey, I got to take my wife out. There was a time that I did struggle with those things. I'm human, so when I first started with this, it was I got to work all the time, right? On the weekends, I'm on my computer 12-hour days, right? And I was like, I can't do this for a long time, so I got to figure out this rhythm. And I think once you figure out the rhythm, knowing the rhythm can change depending on where you are in life. Give yourself grace, man. Give yourself grace on the journey. But more importantly, man, do what you enjoy doing, man. And I think everything, the rhythm just falls in place better.
With that balance, do you find that having that support from family makes it easier?
Man, so much easier. But if you're not putting family at first, it could be difficult. And so again, I know me watching your podcast, I like to be transparent. I haven't always did that. There were moments my wife was like, "Now where you got to go today?" Now Caleb got a basketball game. I'm like, "No, I got to go work. I got to make this money." But then I'm like, man, I'm missing moments. Like my son will be in college, and I look back. He loves what I do, but he enjoys me being there to support him even more, right? And so I didn't want to be that dad that's in the house where my kid's like, well, where you going now? You going to automatically miss my game. And if I do come, they're surprised to be coming. And so I had to reshift. And so I say that to say, I haven't always had it figured out. I feel like I'm in a way better place now because, again, I go back to priority. So my family comes first before anything. So when I'm planning stuff, man, If I see that my daughter has a dance competition or my son has something in school, that comes first, man. And if it's for me, that's a lesson I had to learn. If it's for me, it's for me. It's gonna be there. I ain't gotta fight over it, man. It's gonna be there. And so, yeah, man, family is so, so very important, brother.
Tell us a little bit about your consulting business, Dr. Shawn Board Educational
Yeah,
Solutions
yeah.
LLC. How did that come to be, and what impact are you making through it?
Man, how much time you got?
Got a lot, but I don't know how much
How much
time the
time you
missus
got?
got.
Yes. Okay, so quickly, man. So of course we've been talking about, man, I've been higher ed 20 years, 22 years now. And I've been more a practitioner. So I've taught in college, man. I worked in missions. I did recruitment, man. I've worked at 5 different colleges, right? All different types, HBCU, community college. I've done professional college at UT, man. I've even done policy work, right? I never thought I would get into policy work around post-secondary, where I got a chance to travel across the state, man, with working with different colleges. So we talked about assignment earlier, right? I feel like this assignment has really been on my life, really all my life. I just had to realize it. So I knew my assignment was working in colleges, but I feel like God has always told me he wanted me on this bigger platform to really impact more students. Honestly, a few years ago, I didn't know how it looked. I'm just like, okay, I go to another college at work. When I get done here, I go to another college at work. Now God has given me the platform where I do get a chance to travel and impact students across the country, man. And so I kind of did it here and there, like, with my business, man, I get a chance to do professional development trainings for students, staff, faculty, a list of things, right? And I think, man, I did a little bit here and there, like just being afraid to just jump into it full time. Last year, man, God just kept putting on my heart, like, it's time, it's time, it's time, it's time. And I'm like, oh no, man. I'm used to a salary, full-time salary. I'm used to this comfort zone. And I feel like, man, when God wants you to do something, He not gonna hold back. So it's like, man, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. I'm on a treadmill thinking about it. How can this happen? I feel like the moment when I was able to make the shift to really jump full time, we talked about family. I remember my wife saying, "It's time," and like we had been talking about it, but I'm like, "Now you sure? Like it's gonna be a cut in salary. It's gonna be, we may have to change some things how we do the day to day." And she was like, "Well, no, it's if this is what you're meant to do, at least try it, and you can always go back and get a job. But we're not going to even plan for the plan B." And I think that's the issue with a lot of people. Before we even give chance a really good chance, we already saying, well, it probably ain't gonna work. I still have plan B over to the side. And so, man, I made the jump, man. It's been a year and 3 months. And I told someone the other day, I wish I would have done it sooner. Once you put fear behind, man, I was able to, and I don't say this just to say money wise, I was able to make my full time salary with the job I left in 6 months, right? I've been able to travel to last year, man. I made it to 18 different colleges. Man, I got a chance to speak in my fraternity's national mentorship conference. So, just the places God has taken me, man. I just signed a partnership with an NFL player with his nonprofit to work with his young man athletes around the college access. I didn't imagine these things for myself, man. So I say all that to say, man, when you walk in your assignment, bro, when you listen to God, follow God, He takes care of the rest, man. We just got to do the work. And so that's why I try to focus on, man, not get too worried about what's next and what's 3 months down the line, right? I'm just like, God, you told me to do this. I'm going to do it. And I already know you're going to take care of the rest. Yeah.
Seems like you were leaning to it anyways, but then you said your
Yeah.
wife said
Mhm.
it's time.
Yeah, yeah.
How important is that support and encouragement from your wife?
Mhm. Man, very important, very important. I tell people all the time, we've been married, man. It'd be 19 years this year, so a lot of gray hair has come from it. But now, on the serious side, man, we met actually in high school. She went to the other high school, Central, the high school,
Mhm.
right? So we met, man, junior year. Went to the same undergraduate college, Middle Tennessee State. Of course, we had our breakups, and we went talking for a minute. But I always say, man, when you find somebody, a partner in your corner who I just sent her a text, man, the other day. I was like, thank you for loving me during my low seasons. Man, thank you for loving me during my low seasons because I've had so many of them. And I look at, homies that I got and, folks that, man, this person left me during my low season. They were with me riding high when I was good, right? But it's the people that, and I say this for relationships, friends, man, whoever, it's good to have those people in your corner that gonna love you through the low and the high. And so she's one of them, man. And I feel like she compliments me, right? So she's her own person, man. She has a doctorate degree. She doing her thing, man. Seriously. I'm over here doing my thing, but when we come together, it's like this bigger force, man, that we're able to do. Break generational curses, man. Just be the examples for our kids. The work that we're doing in the community. She's also in community work as well. So yeah, man. To answer your question, brother. Yeah, man. I found a diamond, man. Seriously, man. And it's taken. Um, I feel like when in marriages or relationships or whatever the case may be, there's gonna be up and down moments, right? But again, you want somebody who's gonna fight with you, especially when you're at your low.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
I think that's important.
man.
Uh, you kind of get a sense of who people are during
Yeah,
those
yeah.
adverse times.
So true. So true.
Do they show up for you during your
Mhm.
times? How do they show up during their times, or
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
they show up if you got some adversity together? Like how they are during those adverse times, kind of lets you know, okay, I got to keep her.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. Yes, sir.
Are you specialize in first generation, low income, and unrepresented students? Why is this demographic so important to you, and how do you connect with them?
Yeah, man. Simple question. That was me. The students that I feel like I relate to more, um, they were identical to me. Again, I struggle, as I mentioned earlier, to get to college, right? And it wasn't that it was a struggle of, just being lazy it was a struggle I just didn't know. And so there's so many students in the world who just don't know. If you don't, I talked earlier about being able to see past your current circumstances. Not many people are able to see that. If they're in the hood, they're living in the hood, they're up the street from the corner store, that's all they see. And so there's not many people that can see like in the future, that vision piece, right? Like I'm here now, I'm poor, I'm not doing so great, but one day I'm gonna be, the head of a television network, or I'm gonna be the president of the United States, whatever the case may be. And so my job, man, is to really get behind those students who feel like, and it's not even feel like they are coming in a race, man. They're like a mile or two behind, and you telling that student that you got to run this race, you already 2 miles behind, you don't have the right shoes on, you didn't eat this morning, and these are real situations that I deal with these college students daily. And so I think it's my job, being in this field, to not only cater to the students who have the resources, right? They need help too. However, I feel more inclined to help those who don't have the resources. So, man, if we can change that student group, imagine how much better the city of Memphis would be, how much better the state of Tennessee would be, how much better the world would be. A lot of times we forget about the students who are already behind. Yeah.
Got it. You've worked in the state education policy and influenced access to college for many students. What were the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Man, that's another laughing moment. So no, so every opportunity, man, just in my career, I've learned so much. So again, I started off as a practitioner for 17 years. Like when I say a practitioner, I worked on a college campus. So I did the day to day. I was one that always wondered, like, who came up with these policies that we have to implement on a college campus. I always ask my boss questions all the time. And I would apologize, be like, I got another question. She'd be like, no, go on, ask. But when you get through asking, we got to do this, right? And so, God, man, again, mentorship, and I'm sure we'll probably have that question a little bit later. One of my mentors, and shout out, I'm sure he'll definitely watch this podcast, Dr. Russ Wigginton. He's the president of the National Civil Rights Museum here in Memphis. And I've been so fortunate to have so many great mentors, and he's one of them. He called me on the phone one day, was like, hey, I'm working at this organization. We're doing some great work. There might be an opportunity, take a look at it. And if you know something you want to do, apply and apply to guide it. And so it allowed me, man, to see this state scope of college work or post secondary. So I have only been in Memphis my whole life. Like I've only known the landscape of higher ed in Memphis. I worked at Lemoyne. I worked at University of Memphis. I worked at Southwest Tennessee Community College. I worked at UT Health Science Center downtown. I only knew Memphis. I haven't really never stepped foot outside of the city, right? This allowed me to take that foot, transition, right? Change that we talked about earlier with the movement part, me moving, right, in middle school. It was now happening when I was an adult. So you mean to tell me I get a chance to work across the state, all community colleges, all TCATs, technical colleges. I'm meeting with presidents. I'm meeting with their cabin. Keep in mind, dude from 38114 area code, I had big imposter syndrome, to be honest. Like I remember saying, I got a seat at the table, but I really don't feel like I belong here, And I had a whole doctorate degree, right? But I still had the moments. I'm like, man, I gotta meet with Doctor so and so tomorrow, and tell him about this data that don't look so good for his college, right? I don't know if he gonna really even take this from me. I'm just this dude from Memphis, right? Man, God showed me I've developed relationships with these presidents, man, their cell phone. I get the chance to take them out for lunch, have an actual conversation where they receive the feedback, man. And so that was, I feel like, again, another piece of me forming my own because it showed me not only can you do the work in the city that you're kind of comfortable doing, you got outside of your comfort zone, working across the state, having conversations with pretty much the presidents. So when you do your own thing, you ain't got no fear attached. Like you have done it. And so I think that was a big piece of the puzzle when I got that job that kind of opened my eyes to this whole other world that I can do it. Yep.
In your book, How to Play the Game of College, you offer strategies for students to thrive. What's one key lesson from the book you think everyone should hear?
Man, yeah. So that book, I look at it, man, many days, and again, I wanted to put together a resource, right? So we talked about my work with like first gen students who have felt like I'm starting from behind, right? And I think, man, when you're in your assignment, I would get messages on Facebook, man. I would be in the grocery store, I'm at Target, Walmart, and folks stopping like, hey, I got a question about college. And it's great to be able to answer the questions, but I'm like, I wish I could create this resource that I can get around the country that people can have this like tell-all book about the hidden agenda of college, because there is a hidden agenda. But many times the people that get the agenda are the folks or the students who already have the resources, right? And so that was the purpose of me writing this book, man. It actually took three to 4 years. Like I would start it, I would put it down. I would pick it back up. I put it down. And man, I just was like, hey, I got to get through with this because so many students need the help. And so, one strategy, how to play the game of college, man, I call it the cheat code in a sense of just helping students, but more importantly, even parents, right? Or community leaders or nonprofits who work with their group of students to really understand how to navigate sometimes the tough waters of, going to college or staying in college, right? I think in a book, there's so many different strategies, man, but one that I talk about the most is to ask for help. I start the book off. The first chapter is called Ask for Help. You'd be so surprised, man, how many students that need help, but they have that factor like, I can't ask. I don't know who to ask. I'm going to feel like I'm dumb if I do ask. And then sometimes they don't even know the questions to ask, right? So I even put a list of questions like, hey, if you got some money issues in college, ask this particular office this question, right? So pretty much like a step-by-step guide to really help students to navigate, man. Again, the book has been out roughly 2 years now. Gone on over the world, man. Like I was just in, Nashville a few weeks ago. I was at a conference to get some professional development for myself. Man, Bishop Walker, who's one of the mega pastors in Nashville, Mount Zion, saw me and was like, Shawn, man, the book, we got to get some books. And I'm like, man, how did you even know about the book? Right. And so it's been able to help a lot of students, man. I've heard so many different testimonials. So I know, again, it came through me as the vessel, right? But it was strictly, man, the assignment of God, man, where I was able to write this. And more to come, man. Yeah, something
So
else is
you
in the
got more, you got
works.
more in the
Yeah, you
works,
get
right?
exclusive.
All right.
Yeah, something. Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Where can people pick up the book?
Yeah, yeah. So of course they could go to my website, www.drshawnboyd.com. And it's also available on Amazon. So I tell people that's probably the easiest, especially if you got Prime, man, free shipment. So yeah, go on there, man, get a copy. $12.99. I put it at the lowest cost. I didn't want cost to be an issue, man, for any student. And man, I would love if they would leave a comment or review.
Go get his book, How to Play the Game of College. All right, on Amazon. And what's that website again?
Yeah, it's www.drshawnboyd.com.
All right, y'all hear it. Go get that book. How do you stay focused on your mission with so many responsibilities pulling at you?
Yeah, man. I think the number one thing I try to do is just remember my why. I tell people figure out, and that's a chapter in the book. Figure out your why, right? Why do you get up daily? There's life. It's the young people say life be life, and life is gonna happen. It's gonna come at all of us, right? And it's gonna come hard. But if you remember your why and why you get up daily, man, it just focuses your whole day. So when life do hit you, and there's many days it has hit me, man. You remember like, man, I'm frustrated. And it could be with a student, man, and I'm trying to help, with a college situation, but they do something totally different, right? Or it could be even I'm working with faculty and staff at a college, and it's a mindset change, right? Because I'm coming in to really change what you're doing and what you're used to doing. Um, and it could get frustrating, to be honest, man. So, every day I remind myself my why. And I even have it written down, man. I'm that dude who does like the goals every year. But more importantly, I want to put the strategies behind it. I think so many times we get wrapped up in like this big goal thing we got to put up here. But like, how will I accomplish this goal? What do I need to be doing daily to hit this goal? So every day I don't feel like doing it, I remember why I do it, man. And it really helps to ground me with everything that I have going on.
All right, what advice would you give someone who feels overwhelmed or unsure on how to find their purpose?
Yeah, man, that's a very good question. I think that's a big thing, especially with younger people, man. Trying to figure out what should I be doing for the rest of my life. We're asking high school students to pick a major, right, when they get to college at the age of 18. And you want me to determine at 18 what I need to be doing my whole life, right? That's a lot to ask of a student, right? There's 65-year-olds that don't even know, why they need to be doing something, right? And so one thing I tell people to do is to find out what comes natural to you, things that you really got to work hard at. Like education, man, I can do it in my sleep, right? Um, Number one. However, to perfect what you're doing, you have to put in the work. So that caused me to go back and get several degrees after because I want to be expert in this particular field. I don't want to just be good at it. I want to be great. And so when you find out what you're natural, it's like a basketball player, man. I remember working with Derrick Rose, man, one of my students, of course, now retired NBA player. I remember when Derrick Rose got and was in my class at the University of Memphis, Derek stayed in the gym all the time. And I would even make fun of him and be like, man, you're not going to go out tonight with the rest of the basketball players? He's like, nope. Man, I got a goal in mind. I got a strategy. I'm trying to make it to the NBA within this 1 year. It's the same thing in life, man. So find out what you're naturally good at, but then figure out a way to perfect it. So if that's, man, I love to cook, right? I'm good at cooking. People tell me my cooking is great. You just don't want to stay at great. How can you get good at it? It's that additional degrees. It's that additional trainings. It's that listening to podcasts like this. It's gonna motivate you, man. Finding people, your circle, super important. We talked about this a little bit earlier. If you got people around you that's gonna help to hold you accountable, man, it really helps a lot, man. So I have a small group of friends, but they're mighty, man. They're mighty. So I got like four folks I can call daily. We talk. And it could be a day that I'm questioning myself. I remember getting a contract, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like, I got this contract, and one of my boys was like, "Man, who else they gonna bring? Now let's jump on the phone. Let's strategize. Um, you can do this. What's up? You that guy?" And I left that call like, man, I can do this. Now I'm gonna have to take a lot of research time and really pull this thing together, but I got it. So I think, man, what you're good at, learning how to perfect it, get a circle around you, and that's half the battle.
Two things that stick out is what you're good at, and you need that support team
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna push you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, we all doubt ourselves
So
sometimes.
true. So true.
I know we touched a little bit about your wife,
Yeah.
but then outside of family, still to have that support
Mm-hmm.
to just push you. Two examples that I can think of is my own daughters.
Yeah.
I used to, as parents, we try to put them in this, we try to put them in that,
Yeah.
and I was like, I want them to be active, right? But
Right.
I'm like, okay, this ain't really sticking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a different approach. What are they really good at? What do they naturally do?
Man, yeah.
Like when I see them, what are they always doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the approach to your point, is that what we should do is, what do we naturally do well?
So true.
And why don't we hone those skills in?
Right.
And so I can use myself. It was football, and I was in camps.
Yeah.
Obviously I was like the last on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I poured into it, watched game film. So no different. Yeah, you're spot on with that. What are you naturally good at?
Yeah.
And pour into yourself to become great at it.
Right. Right.
And just to have that support system.
Man.
There's a guy, he was kind of doubting himself about what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to, like, bro, I'm not going to let you think
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
I literally said that to him.
So true.
I'm not going to let you think like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're better than what you think.
Right.
We finna do this together.
So true.
And so we got his resume updated. We showed him where he needs to apply for certain things.
Great.
And I backed off.
Yeah.
And the next day, I got you, bro.
Man.
You ain't got to worry about it.
So important.
Right. So honing in on what you're good at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having that support team. I was telling somebody, you need to shed people that don't benefit you.
Man. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do, man. And that's one of the things I dealt with. Again, I kind of started out by saying I'm an introvert, but I love relationships. I'm that guy who, I was SGA president at Overton and just involved, best all around. That was my superlative, man. So, I could talk to a stranger still to this day, right? I think that's one of my gifts, to be able to talk to just anybody. But on the flip side of that, I always start people off, start people off at 100. So everybody was my friends, everybody my brothers, everybody my boys. The older I got, I'm like, no, everybody don't deserve to have access to you. Let me repeat that, man. Everybody don't deserve to have access to you. And so you have to let people work. I go back to the famous quote, Maya Angelou, people show you who they are, believe them, right? And so there's been some instances I remember looking back, like, man, I let this guy get super close to me, brother. He showed me kind of who he was 3 years ago. I wasted a lot of time, right? Thinking, oh, this person might change. So definitely advice to young people, like you just said, man, the circle is so important. But more importantly, quality is so much better than the number of people that you have around you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, exactly.
So true.
You could have 50 people around you.
Yeah.
You think I got a lot of friends, but they
Man.
serve no purpose to you.
Exactly.
I think
exhausting.
I think the people you have around you should serve you in a purpose, in a purposeful way.
Right.
It's not saying you like leeching off of them. This is not what this is about.
Yeah.
It's just the sheer fact that they provide some benefit. And the kicker to that is, you need to be a benefit to them.
Man, you just said a word, brbrother.
Right?
Yeah. So
and
true.
if you ain't a benefit to them, then you need to do some soul search. You need to figure out what you got going on.
Right.
Because you're not necessarily going to be beneficial in their life and can help them get to where they get. Now you're pulling from their resources and not pouring back into them. So,
man, so true.
like the key things is shed the weight. You can do so much more without dead weight.
Man, so true.
I mean, so much more without the dead weight, and the less amount of people around you could be more beneficial than having a conglomerate amount of people around you.
Right.
So you that definitely struck with me. Honing in and making sure that you got that support system to get you where you need.
Yeah.
All right, for someone watching who's at rock bottom or feeling stuck, what's the first thing you think they should do to start their turnaround in life?
Get up. And that sounds so simple, man. Get up. I think in life, man, we look at falling down or getting into those low places as a bad thing. Man, most of my lessons have been learned in the valleys. Um, it's great when you're on a mountaintop, you could celebrate, but you're not learning a whole lot, right? When you up high, man, you feeling yourself a little bit. It's the times when you hit low, right? So, the advice I would give to those individuals is, it's not about the fall. It's all about how you continue to get up, man. So, you know, we talked earlier about, as we just mentioned, friends and circles and, believing in yourself. That comes with sacrifice, man. Nobody said it would be easy. Man, if people see my schedule, man, and I'm not just saying it to say it, I used to hear people say, I want to do what you're doing. Like, no, you don't. Man, it's a lot that comes with this, man. A lot of travel. I'm up early. I'm going to bed late. It's a lot of sacrifice, right? And so, when you have the falls, man, and they gonna happen to everybody, no matter if you got $1 billion on down to $10, everybody's gonna fall. It's more importantly how you get up, right? And so just get up, man, learn the lesson, apply the lesson, and man, keep on climbing. And know that you're gonna fall again. You're gonna make it, man, up three more mountains, and you're gonna slip again. And many people, I think, in the world decide to stay in a valley because climbing is tough, man. It's a lot of sacrifices. You got a lot of bruises on your hand. Um, you have to motivate yourself. You have to keep saying, I can do it. And so many people give up before it's like they're right there. That's really, man, that really hits me with students. With most students that fall out of college or drop out, they be like a few hours away from graduation. But guess what? They got tired of the climb and they got tired of having to repeat and keep going. And so, man, if you could just learn that, hey, I'm a fall, that's part of life. But more importantly, I can start the day anew, man. The mercies of God, new mercies. Give yourself grace. I feel like that's the most important thing. I used to be super hard on myself, man. I used to be so hard. Like I need to be at this level at this time in life. Um, and man, looking back, it's super foolish. like I was like, if I got to that level, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I would have lost it all. And so timing is everything, man. It's gonna happen when it needs to happen, but just keep getting up.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the recent episodes that released, the guest said, lessons come in the loss.
Man, so true.
And
Yeah.
so we're going to lose,
Mhm.
but then it goes back to the previous question or topic. Who do you have in your circle that's benefiting you?
Right.
You're
Right.
not gonna always be up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need those people to come through when you're down.
Yeah. Yeah.
To your point, like it sounds easy to get up, but when
Mhm,
you're beat
mhm.
down,
Man.
you done tried so many times,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you done thought you had it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
You're embarrassed now. You don't want to show your face,
Mm-hmm.
but that person or persons could be there to kind of give you that boost and to
Yeah.
help lift you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we, and I'm kind of going back to I don't know why I'm staying on this, but I think
Yeah.
it's important that we really identify those that really need to be in our life,
Man, so true. So
and
true.
and we identify those that don't need to be in our life,
Mhm.
and we make the hard decision,
Man,
because
man.
when we fall, we need to know who's gonna be there
So
for us.
true, so true. I remember even, a few years ago, when I was kind of going through that. And again, I say this to say I dealt with this a long time. I think I really didn't get the circle thing right until honestly like a few years ago. And so if you can get it when you're younger, the better off you would be, right? I remember my wife was like, "Do you have somebody in your circle that if you need prayer, you can call?" And it kind of hit me like, I don't think I do. They cool, like to go out to the bar with. They cool to, if I'm going, wherever. But if I really fall low, like I don't think I could call these people. And it wouldn't, and I had to shift the blame because it was a point I was blaming them. It's like, no, that's a you thing.
Self
Like you
accountability.
gotta figure out why you are attracting these type of people in your circle and why you have allowed them to stay in your circle. And so once I got that, man, and I'd be transparent. I did counseling. I recommend it for all, especially black men. Mental health is so important, man. So I had to start. I thought counseling was only when you were super low, in the ground type of deal, and you just, didn't have any other options. But now I do counseling, man, to keep me focused, right? Because sometimes having somebody to talk to, man, they don't have judgment attached, right? They don't have a buy-in to what you're doing. They just gonna tell you the truth, man. And many of us come with different baggages, especially as, as black men, black people. And so when you talk about those things and uncover, so many different things that the baggage that happened even in your younger life, you don't take those baggages or those things into your relationship. And honestly, I had started doing that and not even knowing. And so childhood things, man, get help, man, especially people that are on the ground. Give yourself grace, but know that there's resources out there to help you too. Because if you've been knocked down every day, that's hard to deal with, man. You having a circle is great, but they don't really know the clinical side of how to help you, right? And so I always tell students, I tell black men, I tell black women, man, get counseling. Everybody could benefit from it.
How does someone, they may not have you in their circle?
Yeah.
How do like what advice can you give somebody to I guess kind of self reflect and see that okay, like I keep making these decisions.
Mm.
I'm the common denominator.
Yeah.
How do you tell somebody that okay, counseling may help you with this? It may be an option. Not saying you need to do it, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how do you get that across to them that because it helped you,
Yeah.
it helped open up your eyes to certain things.
Yeah.
But how do you tell somebody who may not have you in their circle?
I think, man, we have to just be just as a people, man. I think the more transparent we are, and again, that hadn't always been me. I kind of grew up, um, and this was something I dealt with in counseling, man. I kind of grew up like having this. I had to be perfect, or I had to present as this perfect person, right? And again, that was some counseling stuff, but the older I got, I'm like, man, let me tell more of the stories of me when I was in the valley to help people, man. So again, being on your podcast today, yeah, I know that it's gonna reach some, even if it's one person that say, "Hey, Dr. Boyd mentioned counseling. I never thought he did counseling." I think we have to tell about our struggles. We have to tell about our stories in the valleys, and it's gonna help people, man. We can't just keep those things to ourselves. And people think, "Hey, Shawn got it all together." It was a struggle, man, to get to this point. But I want to say that there's resources to help, man. We talked about your circle, we talked about relationships, we talked about being your own cheerleader. But then, hey, some people do need, medication or whatever the case may be, or just to talk to somebody, man. And so now you have churches that offer it. Most colleges, I remember working in college, you didn't hear about counseling back in the day. Every college now has a mental health center where students could call, go talk to somebody. Because suicide, man, was like at an all-time high right after the pandemic. You imagine students being by themselves, not having been able to talk to other people. That was a dark place for a lot of people. And so, man, I just think we just need to tell our story, man, and be transparent, be open, and you just never know who you help during the process.
And so a lot of what we deal with kind of, as you said, starts from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned about trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
What kind of led, like if you can think back and share with us, what led to you feeling as though you had to be perfect from
Mm.
when you were growing up?
Man, we get into a counseling session here. Yeah, man. So I think, I guess looking back, man, I think honestly it was me. I think I played into what society thought Shawn Boyd should appear to be and look like. Keep in mind, I've always been, even in chart, man, elementary school. I was involved with everything. I was, a little teacher, just different, everything I've been super involved in. And I think with that, man, that's why I'm always careful, even with my kids, because I do this for, like, I'm out here and I like to do it. But my son is an extreme introvert. And so he'll be like, Dad, don't put me on camera. I don't want to do, and I had to learn, like, that's not his thing. And so I think, man, growing up, it kind of, I felt like I had to always appear to be this way, that I couldn't share because I honestly didn't hear a lot of black men sharing the valleys, to be honest, right? So the older I got, again, that's why your circle is important. my mentors shared a lot of their valleys. And I'm like, oh, you went through that too? I thought it was just me. Because a lot of times people think it's just them. But many things we go through, it's a whole group of folks. I mean, thousands of people that's going through the same thing. And when you open that door and you like, well, how did you get past it? How did you deal with this? And they're open, man, it just helps you as well.
How can people identify their unique skills and turn them into a life impact and purpose?
Yeah, man. I think again, going back to what you're good at, but again, that's I feel like that's the average and the good part. In order to really perfect it, that's where you have to say, how can I get additional trainings? Kind of how we talked about earlier, being in education, I can't really go in certain rooms. I'm just being real with just a bachelor's degree and think I'm gonna run a business around post secondary. The terminal degree alone says that I have an expertise in education. And so when people bring me, sometimes it's not even about who I am. They'll just see the doctor who, doctor so and so, right? Now I have to be able to fulfill that part. I have to bring the substance. But I know sometimes people in the world that we live in, even though I don't go off of titles, the world we live in, they do. A lot of people do, right? It's just like if a Beyonce, people laugh about her ticket prices. She can charge them, and people gonna pay for them, right? Because they think that hey, this is one of the top three people in the entertainment field, so we're gonna pay this person to be the expert that we think she is. It's no different from what we do. So we're really, if you're serious about your craft, I'm still perfect. I have a terminal degree. Guess what? I'm still going to conferences. I was just talking about the conference this morning. It's sacrifice. I got to pay for it, right? However, I know it'll make me a better stewardess of my gift too. So you always got to figure out the gym. Can't just say, "Hey, I'm gonna be in shape." It's the diet, right? It's getting up every day to go to the gym. It's hitting certain target areas. Same thing with your craft, man. You gotta always work on it. Always work on it. Always figure out how to perfect it, and then be open to shift. I think that's the issue with a lot of people. We're not open to say, "Hey, I know this. I know this road. I know it well. I've been doing it for 22 years." But education looks different too, right? Than it did 22 years ago. So what can I do to make the shift? Be open to feedback, constructive criticism, right? And apply those things. Don't just get in your feelings, man, because somebody told you the workshop they went to wasn't great. Use it as an opportunity to be like, well, what was not so great? Every time I present to him, like I always do a survey. And people will, I have people that when they bring me down, it's like, man, you do a survey every time? Because it helps me to get better. Like I'm always look at what people say, because if they're saying the same thing, now if it's one person, hey, take it with a grain of salt. But if the same people keep saying the same stuff, and I keep seeing this theme that come out of what they're saying, I can keep going like I don't see it, or I can work on it. That's all it is.
Got it.
Yep.
What role does faith play in your life and your ability to stay grounded and motivated?
Everything. Everything, man. Faith is the fuel. It's the heartbeat. Everything I do is around faith, man. I just told you I made the jump into my own thing. I didn't know how that was going to look, right? It was faith is being able to move forward without being able to see anything ahead of you. Man, that's crazy to even talk about that, man. I'm driving down this road and God, you saying I can't see nothing. It's raining hard. I'm on a tank of E. I didn't stop at the gas station like I should have, right? And you saying to keep going, and you got me till I get to my destination. Man, that's a lot, right? So what I've learned in life, man, is that I have to have unapologetic faith. It guides me, man. If I look at just today, I get shaky. But if I say, hey, faith, man, I know where I will be and where God is going to take me. Now, I don't know how I'm going to get there. It's scary at times, right? So I always like to tell people, faith is scary, right? It's the unbelief sometimes that creeps up more than the belief. But if I trust God, man, and He guides me, it's nothing I can't do. And so I feel like, man, um, I'm human. I have my days that I do get up and I'm like, I don't know how this gonna look. I don't know 2 years from now how this gonna be, but then God just continue. He confirms me every time. Like I get a contract out of nowhere or I get a call. So I think God always fuels you during the process. We just have to be open to listen and trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening to you, I thought of two comparisons
Mhm.
with kind of similar meanings. One's faith, one's fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have faith, you're gonna go forward not knowing what lies
Hmm.
ahead.
Hmm.
Usually you're fearful because you don't know what lies
So
ahead.
true. So
But I
true.
think one, you have God,
Right.
and
Hmm.
in the other, you don't have God.
So true. So true.
So I think,
Yeah.
to the point of trying to get into what you need to get into or what your purpose is, that faith, along with a higher power, in this case,
Man.
God, will take you to where you need to go. As they say, faith without the work is dead.
So
So you
true.
putting in
So
the
true.
work and having the faith that He's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
steer and guide you,
Hmm.
no matter how much fuel you got in your
Right.
tank.
Right.
But
So
without
true.
Him, you're going to be fearful.
Man.
You're kind of going to get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're fearful, you're stuck. You may be in a low and
Hmm.
not even have the right support system around you.
Man. And Tim, I was thinking, I was at a podcast the other day about faith, and the podcast facilitator mentioned that God gives us many things. One thing He did not do is give us a spirit of fear, right? That's kind of a man-made thing. He was like, if you look at babies, right, you can put a baby in a room with snakes all around. They're gonna play with the snakes. They don't know that the snake can kill me. It can bite me, right? We as humans, we put our own fear into ourselves. And that's the difference between successful people and just average people. Successful people operate on faith. Entrepreneurs operate on faith, man. It's when that fear creeps in. I just said, God said, I got you on this tank of E. Like I need, but fear. You sure, God? You question God every say. You sure it's a gas station right here? You want me to stop? And God was like, no, keep going. And so I had to learn that too, man. So again, I'm human just like anybody else. It took a lot of valleys. I think that's gonna be the theme of the podcast, man. It took a lot of valleys in order to help me to build that faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The failure and stress,
Yeah.
sacrifice is what builds us.
So true.
You
So
ain't
true.
unless it's handed to you, and
Mhm.
if it's handed to you, you may not even know how to manage it.
Right, right.
But if you go through it, if
Mhm.
you grind,
Mhm.
if you come out of it, like you're well equipped
Right, right.
to either like push forward, and to your point of what you're doing, what your purpose is actually giving back and helping people
Mm-hmm.
to where they may go through a valley, but they got the tools and
Right.
equipment and whatever else they need to get through that valley.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
think
true.
that's critical. I think,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
I think you're doing an outstanding job pouring
Appreciate it, man.
into the community, into the youth, because they're not always equipped with it.
Yeah,
Some of them you may meet, already in the valley,
right. So true.
and you're there to like
Many
just
times.
lend a hand and pick them up out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I think, man, that's impactful.
Man, many times. When you said that, I'm like, I used to always tell, I'd be like, why do I always get those particular types of students? But I knew then God was just shaping the assignment, man. So yeah, appreciate you saying that.
What's your message to young people who may feel like the odds are stacked against them?
It sounds simple, man. Look, I'm gonna go to the Nike logo, man. Just do it, man. Just do it. Is many things life stacked against you? Yes, right. I just told you there's many students I do work with, different people I work with. But I always tell folks, man, if I made it, you know, you can do it too. I'm no different, right? I think sometimes we put this hero stamp on people, and then we feel like they're just so different. Man, I have the same 24 hours that you have, right? So, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, get up, put in the work. I like to tell folks all the time, especially young people. I think we live in this Instagram society where people just see reels of folks. I only show reels. I don't really show the valleys because Instagram is not really meant for the valleys, right? My friends know the valleys, my family, my circle, right? And folks I get to share that with. But don't get so brought into to the reels and the highlights only. Know that those folks behind the scenes have to put in the work, have to put in the sacrifice, and you see the end result. You see the book. Not knowing, I just told you the book took 3 years to write. It was days I was like, I don't feel like writing this book. Why I'm doing this, will people buy it? The fear kind of creeps in, right? But if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be sitting with you today, probably, right? And so, I just think, man, you have to keep reminding yourself, I'm built for it. I'm no different than anybody else. Um, and I deserve to be at the table. Man, I think that's very important. And if the table's not there, man, we live in 2025. You can build your own. That's the thing that people are doing, man. It's like, hey, they didn't really invite me to the table, but I got the tools, I got the wood in the garage. I'm gonna build my own, and I'm gonna invite who I want to be at the table.
Yeah,
So, man, think outside the box too. Yep.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
If you could leave one lasting impact, what would you say to those out there if these were your lasting impactful words?
Man. That's a very, very good question. I think, man, the main thing I would say is to um and again, it sounds cliche, man. Do what would last, for Christ, man. Like, there's so many things that come and go. We live in a society again where this is hot this year, it may not be next year, right? But man, when you're working and doing an assignment of God's assignment kind of just goes through all the different time cycles, the different years, right? And so I think it's important, man, to have the relationship with Christ, man, be spiritual, really seek your assignment from God, and you operate in that gift. We all have gifts. I think that's the main misconception when it comes to a lot of young people. They be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, or I wasn't born with this, or I didn't get that gift. I didn't get a gift. I'm like, no, we all got gifts. You just have to listen, man. You have to seek it from God, because it's a miserable life, man. If you hitting 70 and you hadn't figured out your gift, and there's many people like that.
70.
Right? They're 70 years old and they still saying, I shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Mm.
I think that's the man. I think that's one of the things that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to just work a job. I'm like, man, life is short. You 70 years old. You've worked a job. You were not happy with the job. You had that one thing that you knew you should have been doing, but they let fear creep in. So you just worked it. Nothing wrong with FedEx. But you just worked in the hub at FedEx because it was comfortable. But you could have been having a whole product out here that could have made you a millionaire, but you just kind of stood in that comfort zone. And then you constantly tell folks, because you knew your assignment, because you're able to verbally say, man, I should have been doing this, or I could have been doing it. So I think that's the piece of advice I would want to leave for anybody, young folks especially. Don't be that person that's saying, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Be a person to say, I did that. I'm proud of that. I'm doing several of that, and make it happen. Yep.
I like that. Just listening to you and the advice that you just gave, I could truly say you doing that.
Oh, appreciate that, brother.
You doing
Appreciate that, brother. And
Man.
right back at you.
No, I appreciate it as well.
Sir.
Well, certainly appreciate your
Man,
time.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been an honor and a privilege to have you here, to sit on the podcast, and I truly believe that what you're doing day to day is impactful, and I truly believe that whoever sees this,
Man.
whoever listens to this, is going to be impacted, because everything that I believe that you've said has been genuine, and it definitely comes from humble beginnings. And so, I really appreciate it, and hopefully I can have you back on.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you as well.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yes, sir.
What an incredible conversation with Dr. Shawn Boyd. This story is living proof that purpose isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you pursue with intention and grit. Now it's your turn. What's one step you'll take this week to break through your limitations and walk in your purpose? Share it in the comments, DM us, or tag the Purpose Pursuit podcast in your journey. If this episode moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button, share it with someone who needs this, and leave a review. Let's keep this movement going. And remember, purpose waits for no one. It's time to make it happen.